To another edition of Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate. I'm Scott Waddell, along with my co-host Caitlin Wesley, and we are sponsored once again tonight by 12 Company Fire and Command. And we are marking a milestone tonight, 20th episode that we've recorded, and this is a big night for us. So 20 episodes in, and we have a very, very special guest tonight. We'll tell you about him in a moment. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube page. And just wanted to mention as well, congrats going out to Dr. Ian Moore. He was named to the Canadian Horse Hall of Fame today. So a big congrats to Doc Moore. So tonight we welcome a special guest, and he's calling from Ontario, a former trainer driver who got his start with Phil Pinkney down in Nova Scotia. He now calls Ontario his base. He's got a public stable, and I remember Ben, he took part in some young gun challenges back in the day, and he's got 21 lifetime wins as a driver, but has seemed to kind of jump into the trainer role now. He had a career year last year, over $300,000 in earnings, 28 wins last season. And he's got 75 career training wins and over $870,000 in training money. So some great numbers there. And he's also trained some Maritime graduates, including Brookdale Mickey, Red Dirt Love and Life, Brookdale Johnny, Brookdale Seb, and the classy old pacer Windblown. So I will now send it over to my co-host, Caitlin Wesley, and she will introduce tonight's guest. You there, Kate? I don't know if we lost Kate or what.
We lost her. She gone.
I think we did. Well, anyway, welcome to the program, Ben. I'll kind of get things started.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long, long time. I remember you as a youngster in the Maritimes here when you first got your start. You were doing some driving and some young gun series and things like that. So just to start things off, Ben, how did you get to be involved in harness racing? You're a first generation horseman. So how did you first get involved?
Back in, I guess it was 20 years ago, 2004, Easter weekend, I was out for a ride on my bicycle, and my grandma lived close to Truro Raceway, and I ended up, we just literally drove by the barn, and I was kind of mesmerized by the activity. Stopped, got off my bike, and was standing there, watching the horses coming and going, and just happened it was a kind of a cool day. The only barn door that was open was Phil's, so
oh wow,
his barn was right close to the road, so literally just standing there watching the horses coming and going and people coming and going, and I was just mesmerized by the how busy it was. And coming from a non-horse family, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know the difference between a mare and a stud. And I was just standing there, and Phil said to me, he handed me a broom. He said, "You're going to stand there, you might as well do something." So that's how it all started. I started sweeping the floor, and I wasn't doing a very good job. And he said to me, "You might as well do it right the first time, because there's no sense of doing it twice." And so I learned I'm a very good sweeper.
Well, there you go.
That's how it all started. I started off cleaning stalls and sweeping floors and doing tubs and buckets and that kind of thing. And it was a long time before I ever made it on the track. A year or two, probably maybe 3. It was a long time. I was in the barn doing the hard work for a long, long time. And started my way up, and it's been a ride since.
Yeah, what a great fortune for you to get in Phil Pinkney's barn, because you couldn't have learned from a better guy. And of course, we're going to talk about him a little bit. So what was it like learning as you became to know Phil and kind of the legend that he was in the Maritimes? What was it like to work for him and just go through the day-to-day operations with him and watch him do his thing?
Yeah, it was obviously special. Looking back,
Yeah.
and seen all the great horsemen that have come and gone. And, he was just, so good, so good. And, taught me
Yeah.
the proper way right from the very beginning. And it wasn't just Phil, it was his son, Dale. Dale's a tremendous horseman. And, Dale was in the barn too. They had a split stable. So Dale had his horses there, Phil had his horses. So between
Yeah.
the pair of them, watching them, um, how they worked, uh, on with their horses, played with their horses, um, had each one was an individual.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And looking back, I was extremely fortunate. You see a lot of people in this business now, come in, and you'll see them walking down the shed row with their blankets crooked and stuff like that. And that was stuff I was tuned right from the very beginning. You don't do that stuff. And
Yeah.
things were, people don't believe me when I tell them that we weren't even allowed to set brooms on the floor.
Yeah.
There were screw eyes on the top of them. We had to hang them on the door. Um, People don't believe me, but that's the way things were. It was a tight ship, and
Yeah.
everything was clean and tidy. And just, I've carried that on to my own. But working with those guys, they taught me the right way right from the very beginning. There was no cutting corners. There was no jipping. There was no oh, we'll do that tomorrow. Everything was done
Yeah.
properly right from the very beginning, from the first thing in the morning to the last thing we did in the afternoon. So, um, you know, Dale, I got probably learned to train horses from Phil and look
Yeah.
after horses more from Dale. I was around Dale a
Okay.
lot. Dale's a tremendous horseman.
Yeah.
His horses look great. He loved his horses. He's not in the business as much anymore. He hangs around the track a little bit at home in
Yeah.
Truro, and helps do the track and stuff on race day. But the day to day stuff he doesn't do anymore. But um, the stuff I learned from Dale, and Dale was the one that gave me the miles on the track.
Yeah.
He'd hand me my helmet in the morning. He said, "Get going," and he would ride me out the door. When it was cold out, I wasn't even allowed to go back in the barn. We were rolling in and out horses all day, you know, all day long. Saturday, Sundays, I would get there first thing in the morning. He'd come pick me up every Saturday morning and take me
Oh,
to the
that's
track.
awesome.
And he would, I would, between him and Phil, I learned so much. But Dale was the one responsible for giving me the miles on the track,
Yeah.
I was able to learn how to rate miles and train horses and jog horses and all that fun stuff. Whereas Phil was more um, you know, the overall training and racing and all that stuff was Phil, but the hands on day to day and how to look after your horses and play with your horses and teach kind of teach them their own as one of their own was definitely Dale. So
Oh, that's awesome. So you have a public stable now. Is there one or two things that you learned from Phil and Dale and those people in the Pinkney stable that you carry on with today?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's every day. I'm putting a blanket on, and that crosses my mind. The square coolers have to be square.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
little things like that, obviously. But um, no, for sure, always horses come first. That was the
Yeah.
huge thing I learned from uh, from Phil and Dale. The horses come first. Didn't matter. There was no jipping. There was no every horse got put away every day. There was
Yeah.
no pulling halters. There was none of that stuff. Horses came first. We have everything we have because of horses. So that
Yeah.
was obviously the number one thing. And when I'm done here tonight, I'm going to go back to the barn and I'm going to do night chores and hay and water horses and stuff. I do it every night. So whether I'm racing
Yeah.
or not, I still go back. And that was something that I picked up from them. And um, the horses always come first. And the other thing is probably, surround yourself with good people. That was
Good
probably the next
people.
thing that they taught me. Good owners and good people. There's no sense of having somebody that's not on your side around you. If people don't like how you're doing things, there's no sense of having them around. So,
Yeah.
and keep your people that are good to you tight to you. And that
Yeah.
was, a big thing I learned from Phil. We had horses for multiple owners, and sometimes the owners didn't get along. We got rid of the new ones, and
Yeah.
kept the ones that were good to us, and that's what you got to do. You got to keep your guys happy and
Yeah.
close to you.
Yeah. So it must have been a big decision to leave Truro and go up to Ontario on your own, but you got a chance to work with some amazing horses. And of course, one that sticks out is McWicked. So tell us what it was like to work with such an amazing horse.
He was he was a special horse. He was a cool dude. He was nice to be around, and obviously special. And the trip he took me on was phenomenal. The summer only looked after him for one summer, but that
Yeah,
summer was the summer he won 1.6 million, and he was horse of the year on both sides of the border.
yeah.
But I actually moved to Ontario to look after a horse named Art Speak, who was standing study
Oh
in
yeah,
Ontario.
yeah,
Um, the 2 summers, like I went to university as soon as I graduated. I knew I wanted to do something with horses. What I wanted to do, I wasn't quite sure.
yeah.
I took a semester off when I was getting my degree,
Okay.
and when I took that semester off, I worked for Phil, and that was really solidified that I wanted to train horses more than
Yeah,
anything. I don't have the side; I'm too big to be a driver, and so it, when push came to shove, and then for two summers during university, I went away and worked in the States with the Hollingsworth Youth Foundation, teaching kids about racing. I traveled all
yeah.
over with them, met
Oh
some
wow.
very incredible people,
Yeah,
made a lot of connections. So those connections, including Tony Alanya,
yeah,
Tony was on the board um, in a past student of the HHYF. I got to know him quite well, and he said to me, and then I went to work for Lindy Farms. So my last summer in university, I went to Connecticut, worked for Lindy, and they sent me to Ontario with a trot and colt that was pretty nice. And I had a small string of horses up here for them, three or
yeah,
four or five, something like that. And but I would do catch paddocks on the side because I only raced a couple nights a week for them.
yeah,
And one of the horses I paddock for Tony. They one night he raced like 17 on a Saturday night at Mohawk or something crazy. And the
yeah.
horse he let me paddock was Art Speak. So,
Art speed.
uh, and he told me I was getting ready to leave to come home, and I said, "Hey, thanks for the opportunities. I'm heading back east next week."
Yeah.
And he said, "When you're done university, I'll have a job for you wherever you want to go,
Wow.
whether it be Jersey or Ontario. You let me know." So we kept in
Yeah,
contact, and he said, "You can look after Art next year as a 3-year-old."
yeah.
So I had that in the back of my head all year. So it kind of gave me something to look forward to. So I finished my last year of university, and when
Oh
I walked
wow.
across the stage and got my degree, my car was packed. I was ready to rock and roll. So didn't really know what I was going to do or how it was going to transpire, but I had enough money to know that I can make it to Ontario, and
Yeah.
and that was about it. There wasn't much extra, but yeah, we made it here,
Wow.
and
That's awesome.
I worked for I think Colin Johnson for a few weeks before Art
Okay.
Speak showed up, and then I worked with Tony for that summer, 6 months that summer.
Yeah.
And Art Speak he was fifth in the North American Cup that year, the 10 hole, and he ended up winning the Simcoe stake, I believe it was, in like 48-2 or something crazy. And
Yeah.
he
It
was
was a nice cover.
he was my first kind of step into looking after good horses. I had some other horses. I looked after Capri Sale. She made $1 million. I looked after her for a little bit as a 2-year-old. I had another filly.
Okay.
That's so very, very nice. That went in 51, her first lifetime start, set an OSS record. So those horses kind of got me the blood pumping in what it felt like to look after a good horse.
Yeah.
And I kind of bounced back and forth between, I'm a big believer in going with your gut. So when Tony left, I went to work for Ben Bergeron. I was with Ben for a year. I
Yeah.
looked after a lot of nice trotters, learned a lot. Ben's a
Yeah.
great teacher. So I looked after
Yeah.
with Ben for a long time. I was able to work really hard and paddock and ship and race a lot and made a lot of money. And I was able to, buy all new furniture for my apartment and was able to go on
There
my
you go.
own and
Yeah.
kind of get make things a little living wise a little easier. That was renting a room from somebody and that kind of thing. So I worked for Ben for a year, and then yeah, I needed some downtime. So I trained babies with Scott McEnany for winter because I didn't really want to. I wanted to race when I wanted to race, not every one. I think with Ben it was like within 2 months I raced like 45 nights out of 60. So I was very
Oh,
busy, banked a lot, but was able, was getting tired. So I
yeah.
raced,
Yeah.
for Scott, just did catch paddocks and stuff like that when I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I worked for the Stacy's, Mark Stacy, for a year. So I kind of had a checklist when I
Okay.
moved up here of of people that I wanted to work for. Um, and on that list was obviously Tony, because I knew I was coming to work for him, but Ben Bayerzon, because Ben's the truck guy, and I wanted to learn as much as I can about hanging up trotters from him.
Yeah.
The next one was Mark Stacy.
Yeah.
Phil's first chance at an O'Brien Award, Mark beat us. So I said, I want to see what that guy does. So I worked for
Yeah.
him for a year, him and Sean. Then I went to work. I left there to go work for Casey, and Casey was on the list as well.
Yeah.
And so I had a small list, and I've worked for about everybody I wanted to. The only one that's on the list I never got to work for was Jimmy Tactor, because he retired before I was able to. But now I get Tactor horses coming here. Nancy's horses come here for the summer for me, so
nice.
I get to look after them for the summer. So I'm kind of in it. I know what's going on and know how things work and that kind of thing. But yeah, Wicked was a special horse. He going to Casey's. Casey asked me if I would take a small string to Jersey, so I ended up leaving with 4 or 5 or whatever it was. And it was busy. It was a lot of work. Casey's very you put away, they're very thorough. Things don't get messed. The horses get grassed. You're there early and you leave late, and you work hard. But the rewards were incredible. And Casey pays a great bonus program, as a lot of people know. And I was able to bank that bonus. And when my season was done there, I was able to take that bonus and I claimed my first horse with it. So Mick Wicked, he's a screensaver on my phone, because he's the one that started it all. So if it wasn't for him and as well as we did that summer, I may not have got the start that I did when I got it. So
that's awesome. So out of McWicked's wins, which one was your favorite?
Probably the Lexington race. That was special. So he had a Canadian groom that didn't go to the States, and then I was in the States with him. So I had him for all of the States wins. So the race at Lexington, when he went in 46-2, that was incredible. Looking back and watching the race, I never clued into even how fast he went. I had no idea what the 3/4 was. I was just watching him, and at that time he was going in, and that was probably the coolest moment. I was there for 2 weeks in Lexington with him. I just had one horse, and he was my only. And to have it just happen to be the best horse in the world, that was pretty cool. So you get a lot of you take him for a walk, and everybody wants to see him, and people want to come up and pat him. And he wasn't always the most sociable guy, but he was a pretty cool animal. And he, I remember I was sitting in my trunk one day, I was getting ready to feed lunch, and it was one horse. You did a lot of sitting around, and you could only take him for so much grass. And when the track was busy, you couldn't grass him, because we had to go in the center field. And he, I seen this guy walking up from. I was in the barn all way by myself. It was just him in there, and so he didn't get fighting with other horses. He was a little bit of an ornery guy when it comes to that kind of thing. And I seen this guy walking up, skinny guy, come up. Hey, mate, how you doing? It was Dexter Dunn. He said, I said, yeah. He said, can I go see him? I'm like, sure. So it was one of Dexter's first summers here, and he came up just to see Wicked. So that was cool. Like to be around, and you're hanging out. You go. I remember when I was in Lexington. There's a group of people, all the grooms and trainers and stuff. And hey, we're gonna go. Buddy of mine said, hey, we're gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings tonight. That's okay. Went to Buffalo Wild Wings. Everybody's there. The place is just horsemen, basically. And I remember I was playing. There's a golf game that you roll the ball. I was playing the golf with Corey. I think it was Corey Callahan. It was Andy Miller for sure, Tim Tetrick for sure, and maybe Corey and I. So it was pretty cool. You were rubbing shoulders with the big wigs, and you learned those guys. They're just guys. They're great people, and do anything for you and help you in any way they can. And but yeah, it was cool to see that side of everybody. But yeah, Lexington for sure was a special moment for me when it comes to Wicked. When I think of Wicked, Lexington for sure is number one.
So take us back a little bit. You got your driver's license way back in Truro 2010, and
that long ago.
It is, yeah. Tell us about that first lifetime win that you got.
I think it was a horse named. It was House of Rock and Roll.
It
We
was,
had
yeah.
two. It was Dale Pinkney. Dale Pinkney bought those horses, Heart of Rock and Roll and House of Rock and Roll, from the same guy. Way
Yeah.
back when On Gate first started, Dale was the first one of the first people to buy horses off On Gate. He was
Oh,
way ahead
okay.
of his time. So Dale was buying horses off On Gate, cheap 2 and 3 year old, two coming threes,
Yeah.
giving them the time that they needed and making them race horses. And those two
Yeah.
horses, I think they end up making close to 500 between the two of them. We had
Wow.
Heart of Rock and Roll was my first lifetime drive. The
Yeah.
one behind the gate, the guy beside, I can't remember, beside me, Ernie laughing or somebody. They
Yeah.
hit the number and it was a loud bang. It was right behind the truck and he just
Yeah.
jumped it off.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my first drive, and then I think 3 or 4 starts later, House of Rock and Roll. Heart of Rock and Roll was he was a fast horse, and he was the first horse to ever, I was able to feel power.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember training them, and Dale said we got to get this horse to go along because we got to see how fast he is before we qualify him. I
Yeah.
trained him I want to say in 2 minutes off a half and two, and come
Yeah.
outside 58 with him, and he was when you chirped to him, he was power, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget that. He was the
Yeah.
first one, but House was a big old kind of a big. He wasn't a speed horse. He ended up being a speed horse. He ended up being a really nice horse, but he was kind of or especially around the half, he was just kind of a plugger, one speed. But I was able just to outlast him in the maidens and trail, and he made me look good. But yeah, that feeling is something that you'll never
Oh, yeah.
any race you win. Um, that feeling is tremendous. But the first time, this is actually what it feels like. It's no wonder people do it for a living because you just want to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. Very, very exhilarating, I'm sure. Back in June 2013, it was your first stake race with a horse called Angel Fire, and that was from Phil's barn. And I know you got a chance to drive that horse in a couple of stake races. You even made a Maritime breeder final with
Yeah.
that horse. Yeah. So tell us what it was like to have a chance, you know, such a young age, getting the job with Phil and working under him, and then actually him entrusting you to drive his horses.
Well, I don't know if he entrusted me to drive Angel Fire. He just didn't want to deal with them. Uh,
Okay.
he was he was an asshole,
Oh,
for lack of a better term.
yeah,
He was Dale and I broke him at I think believe Dale and I ended up with him maybe at 2 at one point. And then he went to Phil and we finished him off and he won one of the last starts of the year.
yeah,
And he we didn't know what to do with him. We had no idea. So we ended
yeah,
up sending him to Ottawa to Toby McDonald. Actually, Toby went up there for the winner. We sent
yeah,
the horse up there. And then when he came back, uh he was we had to figure out what we are gonna do with him. And yeah, he used to kick. You go put the harness on, he kick. He kicked with the dog
dirty.
cart and race spike on, kicked the walls and stuff. He was a real
Uh,
funny horse. He wasn't very sound. He hit his knees bad. He
yeah,
used to wear spreaders. He was kind of hot and silly, and he
yeah,
just definitely not a Phil horse. He was skinny and never carried much
yeah.
weight. He was just definitely not a Phil horse, but he was a special horse because he was a homebred. He was a full brother to a good horse Phil used to have named Absalom.
Oh, yeah, I remember
He was
him.
a
Yeah,
he was a home yeah. Absalom was one of the better 2 year old and 3 year olds
he was. Yeah.
years ago. But Angel Fire, they always had trouble getting the mare in full. And the only time two foals she ever had were both by Largo, Absalom
Okay.
and Angel Fire. And Angel Fire was learning from Phil. And then yeah, he said to me when he come back from Ottawa, he says, I said, what do you want to do with that horse? He said, I don't care. You do what you want with him. And so he
Yeah,
kind of just left him for me. That was, I was able to train him down and got him to the races and got him, first couple starts, got him back pacing good. And he ended up, it was funny, like for a knee knocker, he actually got around the small, sharp flat tracks better than he ever did the bank turns. But,
oh, wow.
um, yeah, I don't know if I did get a check in the Maritime Breeders' Final or not, but I remember making the final.
You were
And
fourth, actually.
was I fourth? Yeah, I
Yeah,
got a whipping
yeah, you
fine.
were
I got a
second.
whipping fine for that. I remember.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you
Yeah,
were second. You were second in the elimination. Then you
elimination.
finished
Yeah,
fourth in the event.
yeah, the elimination. I think that was the race that Redmond Deuce had run in the first turn.
Okay.
Uh, and I had never scored Angel Fire out because he was a hot horse, and
Yeah.
we had the rail or 2 hole or something. I think it was the rail, and there was a recall late, and we went in the first time at the gate, and he
Oh,
was so this next time he was on fire. I was able to get
yeah.
away in the 2 hole,
Yeah.
and 2 hole on the front or somewhere like that. And I remember Walter Chevry yelling and screaming at me because I was jamming them up, and
Oh,
he.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember making the final, and yeah, the whipping. Yeah, I remember getting the whipping fine, and I believe that was in the final. Darren Crow and I were coming neck to neck to the wire, and
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Fillmore, the owner, he paid the fine for me.
Oh, there you go.
He's like, over 25 G's. He said, you do what you need to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But no, it was he was a special horse, and to have Phil's trust in me and to to drive the horse was cool. At
Yeah.
that point in his career, he wasn't interested in driving much anymore,
Yeah.
and he was a special horse for me, and he ended up actually it was the horse that almost drove me out of the business. Phil took that horse and actually gave him to Paul Angel
Oh, okay.
before the Quig. I think it was the Quig in St. John or in Fredericton,
Yeah.
and they didn't know what they didn't really want to sell him. He wasn't sound enough to sell, and they thought Paul's family. They had the farm out in Onslow, so
Yeah.
Dave Fillmore thought we'll just give him the horse. So they gave him the horse before the race. He goes out and wins the Quig. I was very upset. Paul drove him, and
Yeah.
I didn't go to the barn. I was done. I went
Oh,
and got my
wow.
stuff. I packed my stuff up. I wasn't coming back,
Oh,
and
wow.
it broke me. It really bothered me, and it was Freddie Saunders of all people. He had me listed on a mare he wanted me to drive.
Yeah.
Something Hanover. She a little tiny skittish mare, and he
Yeah.
always wanted me to drive her. And he had me listed that Sunday, and I had to come back and drive her. And that was the only reason I
Yeah.
ever come back to the barn. But I was a long
Oh,
time
wow.
getting over that one. That one hurt.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, he was Angel Fire was a cool horse. He was my buddy, and he,
Yeah.
I had him right from the beginning.
Yeah.
When we broke him and trained him down at 2, and I drove him at 2, and then come back at 3, and
Yeah.
he was and actually set the track record or tied the track record in Inverness. When
Okay.
we went an A stake up there. I tied the 3-0 gelding record there, so that was cool. That was one of my funnest, most fun moments between driving the horse and driving any horse ever was that
Yeah.
race. Coming back
Yeah.
there, everybody honking their horns and yelling over the fence and stuff. It was like winning the North American Cup. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So last year, Ben, you had a big year. You had your best wins ever as a trainer, and top money earnings as well last season. So what are a couple highlights that stick out for you from last year?
Definitely Windblown's comeback. He came back and was able to tie his lifetime mark again.
Yeah.
He came back and went 49-4 for a second time after
Yeah.
spending 5 months in the stall. That was probably the highlight of the year. But other than that, some personal gratification.
Yeah.
A horse like Brookdale Mickey.
Yeah.
I had him at. He didn't pan out to be the horse that we thought he was coming back from 2 to 3, but I had
Yeah.
the horse. He paced in 51 as a 2-year-old, and then I kept him. He was the first horse I ever trained back from the
Yeah.
start. So I trained usually Dougie and Doug. They send them back home to train back, but I was
Yeah.
able to convince him to stay here just because he was such a silly horse, silly,
Yeah.
silly, silly. He was a
Yeah.
mental patient. He was tough on me, and we finally ended up getting along to the point that it worked out good for all of us. But he was a special horse because he was so silly. And the fact,
Yeah.
when I first got him, we used to have to take 2 of us to paddock him and get him out the door, and 2 or 3 of us to get him off the track. And when I
Oh,
lost him in the claimer earlier this year,
yeah.
it was just me, and I was able to get him off the track by myself. And he had come a
Oh,
long way, so that was that was pretty satisfying to see a horse like him come so far. Like
yeah.
I said, he didn't turn out to be the horse that we thought he was going to, but he still made quite a bit of money last year. And Windblown to come back and win 8 races at Mohawk and win 3 in
Yeah.
a row, win another 10-hole. Obviously a horse like him is always special.
Classy
Another
horse.
one's my mother Pearl. She's been a special mare for me.
Yeah.
She was a mare I bought up here. She was one of the first horses someone sent to me when I went open my public stable,
Yeah.
and I was able to I was able to buy her before she broke her maiden, and she had I think 35,000 made. She's got like 205 made now, so she's made me about
Wow.
170,000. And
Nice.
she's been special. She went, when I first got her, I think she had one clean line in her life, and she used to make breaks and hit her knees, and she
Yeah.
whacked her shins hard, and she wasn't safe to be around. And I was able to race her Georgian, and she was able to get some confidence. And then I took her to Mohawk, and she made some
Yeah.
breaks on me a little bit here and there, but she was, finally the owner just said, I just want rid of her, and we came up with a
Yeah.
price and met in the middle, and
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be able to have the money in my bank account that I could write him a check, and
Oh,
and
nice.
uh, and she ended up breaking her maiden 2 starts later. So
Yeah.
she's been special. She's just coming back from she hurt the suspensory, so I just had it frozen. She'll qualify back on. She's been almost 2 months, so over 2 months now. So she'll qualify back on Friday at Mohawk, and we'll see from there. But the fact that she turned into be, she ended up winning 56 at Grand River, I think maybe 55 or 56 at
Yeah.
Grand River.
Yeah.
She's got a best time at 51 and win 53 at Mohawk a couple times, and she's been special. So it wasn't one huge big win out of everything. Obviously Windblown's winning 49 stands out, but
Yeah.
just the horses were able to knock on the door every week um and make money. That's the big thing. They're pretty consistent in getting checks, and I take it personal when they don't.
Yeah.
Just because I know the expenses of having them here. So, um, but yeah, no, for sure the Windblown's 49 miles number one, but the consistency we had throughout the year to be able to make over 300,000, and I think it was 27 wins or something, and that just to keep adding to that total, that's the key. And I do it by myself, so I have one
Yeah.
girl that helps me out now, but
Okay.
Janae Gallant from Sydney, but
Yeah.
she came in, I think started working for me in October or something like that. But I did a lot of I do a lot of the work myself. So, I do all the shipping, most of the racing, most of the paddocking.
Yeah.
All I can do just about anything. So I do all the jogging and training. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
the satisfaction that the horses race good, and it's a small operation, and when I send them on the track, they usually have a chance. That's huge.
Yeah. And imagine you put them in where they belong, and
Well,
they're.
when I can, I try
Yeah.
to classify them when or take them where they can do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do sometimes, just with the money they go for Mohawk, it's tough not to try to race there. But sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and take them to the small track, and sometimes braving them up and racing
Yeah.
there. It's a little cheaper, and yeah, they don't go for as much money, but I'd rather have a big piece of a small purse than a small piece of a big purse.
So you must field a lot of calls from Maritimers when they're looking for a horse, because I know that a lot of people in PEI and all over the Maritimes buy horses in Ontario. Do you field a lot of calls and get some recommendations on some claims up there that might be worth looking into?
I do and I don't, not a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
I've sent a few horses home. I just
Yeah.
sent one a couple of years ago. I had a mare. She got hurt. I didn't know really what to do with her, so I sent her home. She went to the Mullins boys, what Moxley win. She went, I think 7 or 8 races that year for the boys there. I just
Okay.
sent another one. I just sent another one home, a classy old horse that a buddy of mine had. He actually went to the Mullins 2 Yacht Sealster. Um, I try to do what's right for the horses, and when Donnie Lindsay came to me and said, "Hey, can you see if you can find a home for Yacht?" I used to paddock Yacht a lot. Love the
Yeah.
horse. He's got an injury. He needs time. If they're willing to put the time in, they can, take him home and have some fun with them. So hopefully he makes it back. I've claimed a few horses for guys down home.
Yeah.
Horse went to Summerside a couple of years ago. I can't remember his name now. Something Shadow. But he ended
Okay.
up a Sable Shadow, Sable something.
Oh, Sable Attack.
Sable
Sable
Attack,
Attack.
that's it. Sable Attack, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, he went home. I claimed him for guys down there, and Mitch Downey. We
Yeah.
claimed a mare this fall, um, just before the new year. We claimed
Yeah.
her. She's a really nice mare. So she went home. We had some problems with her here, some breathing issues and stuff. So she needs some time
Okay.
and some rehab. So she went back home. So she'll be down there this summer.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, it's not a lot. You get a few guys that want a tire kick and hey, look for the horse, but when it comes time to actually paying for them, they never are around. So I don't look too hard. But if somebody calls me or asks me about horses, I definitely try to do my best to help them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to obviously send as many down there as I can because I know how important it is to have horses for the racing program.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you get the odd guy that'll call you and say, "Hey, find me this horse." The ghettos or other guys from Cape
Yeah.
Breton, I've had good luck, or I've have sent horses, bought horses,
Yeah.
and horses home for them.
Yeah.
That two-tone Tamara that was really good for them this year. She was one that I bought up here.
Okay.
I almost had to pay for it myself because she had a big knee and I didn't know she had it when I bought her. I went to
Oh,
pick her
really?
up, she had a huge knee, so I said to Dana, I said, if you want, I'll take her. Like I'll pay for it myself and just keep her and race her here.
Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. I bought her. I'll take her home, and she's been great for them. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, that's
but yeah, no,
awesome.
it doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally you
Yeah.
get the odd call. But I don't go looking.
Yeah.
I'm busy enough as it is. So, if
Oh, I
people
would
ask me,
imagine.
I definitely will, but it doesn't
Yeah.
happen a lot.
So you've got young or Dale Spence up in Ontario this time of year. Just tell us your relationship with Dale. I know that you've used him a few times, and just kind of what your relationship is.
Odell and I are buddies. We've been buddies for a very
Yeah.
long time. So we're
Right.
almost, I think we're like 364 days. Our birthdays are almost the same. We went to university together. Some of
Oh,
us
okay. I
finished, some
didn't
of us
know that.
didn't. Dale.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for a long time. We got our license at the same time to
Yeah.
drive horses. Always been around the track. He worked for Jill's, I worked for Phil. So we were always around the same
Yeah.
circuit together. So yeah, Dale and I have known each other probably over 15 years, I'd say.
Wow.
So the fact that we've come so far, and
Yeah.
I try to use them on horses I own myself. It's tough to convince some of the other guys to use him when he's not necessarily a Mohawk regular.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Dale can drive a horse as good as any.
Yep.
I like using them because it's not me out there, but he's going to give me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
If a horse is running in or a horse is running out or not
Yeah.
steering the best or whatever, not pacing the best, he can give me, and I 100% trust what he says. So,
Yeah.
he's a great friend. He's a good guy, and he was in my barn when they first come up this time,
Yeah.
and Mackenzie was up last summer. She was in my barn with some horses for the summer, and
Yeah.
American History. He came back up to me before they moved back up, and they lived
Yeah.
with me for 6 or 8 weeks here, and they come
Ah,
back. And,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we're good friends, and
Well,
you
that's
know,
good.
we get to see each other every day, and
That's awesome.
yeah, we train a lot together if we can,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
just jump in sets or whatever if we need to, or
Yeah.
he can rate a watch and rate a mile and rate a watch is best or better than most people. So
Yeah.
I when I had those horses, the Brookdales come up, Brookdale George and Brookdale J Mac, and we had to go a good mile in Mohawk. I
Yeah.
enlisted Dale. He came in the morning and drove one for me, and we trained them together. And he
Yeah.
was bang on. He knew what he was doing. So, and
That's
like I said,
awesome.
you can take what he says to the bank, and it helps me out a lot. I don't want to drive anymore.
Yeah.
If something's to happen in a race and I get hurt, then who's going to do my work? So,
That's
um,
right.
it's hard to find any help anyways, and it's definitely going to be hard to find somebody to ride and drive and put horses away and ship and race and all that stuff. So, I don't necessarily. I keep my license up just to keep it up, but that's probably going to come to an end here shortly. So, there's enough guys up here that I trust that there's no shortage of guys that can qualify horses and drive horses. So, I'm not too worried about it. If I let them go, I let them go. But I basically got my license just because I was, could train. I was training
Yeah.
them anyways, so I might as well drive them myself. So,
And at that point, Phil was about ready to retire from driving, so it worked out that I was able to kind of pick up horses and drive some for him. But no, having a guy like Dale around is key to me. He can tell me what's going on, and it's like having my own set of eyes there without me actually being out there. So
So what are your long-term goals? You're going to stay in Ontario, I presume, and grow your stable?
Yeah, that's the plan. I don't try to look too far ahead. I would like to maybe switch more from the race horses to the young horses, but that's a big leap to take. Especially with it works so good for me that the Polly's horses are broken, trained down home, and they've been great to me and loyal to me. So I know that when they're ready to come, they're going to come to me, and we've had good luck together, and the horses have raced fairly well, and for I like to think that we got out of them what we could, and it's hopefully the plan is to stay here. I would like to get some better class horses maybe, or just basically work, just be a Mohawk. But for me in the summertime, it really it doesn't say it on the program, but not last year, the year before, I had all Nancy Tactor's horses. They all came to me, and we made like 1.1 million that summer. So, we went to Breeders' Crown. We went to Breeders' Crown to the barn, and we're second or third in the Trotting Classic. I've paddocked horses with North American Cup twice for. So to have that kind of to have those kind of horses in the barn is fantastic. But I would obviously like to do it myself at some point. But that's a big step to take, and you need a big following behind you to do that. So I'd like to the race horses pay bills. There's money coming in constantly, so we'll do that. I've got one baby right now, but I bought last fall, and a couple of the probably 3-year-olds that are coming okay. But it's you like to do better. I just I like to do better than I did last year, so that's kind of the plan. I don't like to have a number in mind that I want to beat, or have a specific goal I want to do. I just like to do better than we did last year, and things will be okay.
So I know you mainly stick with racehorses. You just mentioned that you have a young one. Tell us a little bit about that youngster.
Yeah, I have a 2-year-old McWicked filly. I wasn't necessarily looking specifically for my mother. Pearl had a sister in the sale in London, so I went down to look at her. I wasn't able to make it the first night because Pearl was racing there in London, so I wasn't able to go over and look too hard. I went down early the second day, and I obviously being McWicked, I was partial to her, so I watched a lot of videos. I loved her video. She trotted nice. She was kind of small and round, but she's strong. She's got a big hind end on her. So I bought her for 12,000 in the London sale, and I didn't have any partners. It was just me, so I was able to, I didn't have a huge budget, and and I had, like I said, no partners at all. So I was on my way home, and I got a message from Kevin Dory from Sackville.
Oh yes,
and Kevin said, we'd be interested in selling a quarter of that filly. My wife's looking for her first horse. And I said, sure. So his wife, Cheryl, owns a quarter. I own a half. And then Michael Goldberg, who owns a couple horses with me, Insanity, and a new horse we just bought, Valentino of Lita. He owns the quarter. So it was my guys. Once Kevin got in, I wasn't too worried about, I would have taken 3/4 would have been fine. But there was a very, very, very small list of people that could have got in for the next quarter, and then I wanted to keep half for sure. Unless someone came and offered me a ton of money, I would have taken it for the other quarter. But I wasn't looking for $12,000. I wasn't overly concerned about selling out another quarter. So I ended up selling out half of her, and that makes my pays the expenses on her for the winter, and she's been training good. I've been in 21 with her last half and 8 the other day by herself, so she's right on tap, right on par to be where she needs to be. We fade her up into the She's a Great Lady and the Battle of the Bells, and just hometown stuff. We don't plan on leaving here, but
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's not overly big, but she's got a lot of she's got a great attitude. Anytime I've ever asked her to go forward, she's always gone. So
Yeah.
no concerns about that. Size might become a little bit concerned, but that's fine. We'll deal with that when she comes. She needs time. She needs time, but
Yeah.
I really like her. I got a couple 3-year-olds for the Pollies that are nice.
Yeah.
Brookdale J Mac, he's been just a little bit of a project horse. He's been getting a little grabby on us and putting steps in, and he
Oh,
uh,
okay.
he got he's better now than he was last year. But he was getting on a line bad on me, but he ended up popping an abscess in that foot, so we missed a couple weeks. So he'll be coming back fresh, hopefully. And
Okay.
a maiden colt. They've got another maiden colt, the Brookdale George, Mickey colt. He's a nice horse.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's as fast as J Mac, but he's going to be a useful racehorse for sure. So
Oh, good.
he raced was third or fourth the other night. He was blocked and heading over him to go late. So he
Yeah.
got the 10 hole on this tomorrow night, yeah, Friday or Thursday. So he's got the 10
Thursday.
hole tomorrow. We've been drawing terrible, having terrible luck.
Gee.
Brookdale Johnny, he's been racing great. So hopefully he can keep on rocking. And yeah, my old trotter was second last night in London. And so yeah, we have some nice horses in the barn. Nothing, no superstars, I don't think, but we got some nice race horses. So we just keep on knocking out week after week, and
Wow, that's awesome.
hopefully the filly comes and shows up this summer, is able to make a little money,
Yeah.
and Cheryl's able maybe to get up here and get her picture taken would be great. And,
Yeah.
but they're great partners, and I'm very lucky to have the guys I have behind me. They're the Pollies, like I said, they're 110% loyal.
Yeah.
And they've had horses for so long now. You got to make a phone call and tell them something's bad. They've
Yeah.
understood it before. They've had it happen. So
Yeah.
they're great to deal with, and they don't bother me too bad. They just let me train the horses, and it's worked
Yeah.
out good. And Gordon, Joanne McComb don't have a wind blown. They're
Oh,
fantastic,
okay.
and Michael Goldberg is great. Just keep
Yeah.
them in the loop and let them know what's going on, and let me train the horses, and that's what they're great at. So it works out good for everybody.
No, that's awesome. Well, listen, Ben, thanks very much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy guy. You do it
Yeah,
all at the barn.
tonight was the night we had off, so it worked out really good.
Yeah. Well, I figure Wednesday night there was a chance that you may not be racing at the Hawk or whatever. So
Yeah, no, it worked out really good. The last couple of nights we've been on long nights. We've been on Lasix in London and stuff, so it's been today was just an errand day, clean the house up and
good.
hang out with the dogs, and take it easy. So we're able to get some work done around the barn that needed to be done, and some work around the house, and the stuff that gets missed when you're racing and you're gone for 8 or 10 hours a night to go race. So so we start back tomorrow night, back in the loop, and head through and have Sunday off, but then we're back Monday, Tuesday in London again. So we'll be busy.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, best of luck this season. Hope your filly does really well for you. And I know that you'll keep adding to your stable. You've certainly come from, learning here in the Maritimes. I'm sure you see a lot of Maritimers up your way. And
they're everywhere. So you can't miss them. And once guys find out you're from the Maritimes and they're from the Maritimes, you're buds forever. So, guys, Stevie Charlton and guys like that, they find out you're from the Maritimes and they can do nothing but help you. So it's huge to have that kind of support in your corner, whether it's at home or here. It's always good.
No, that's awesome. Well, thanks again very much, Ben. Really appreciate it, and best of luck this season.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Good job. Good work.
All right. So that wraps up episode number 20 here on Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate. I'm Scott Waddell. Unfortunately, we lost Kate early in the podcast, so it's just been Ben and I, but we got some exciting news. Denmark Acre Standardbred Racing and Breeding, they are on board for the next 5 episodes of sponsorship, and they stand the stallion Mad American down in Nova Scotia. So also want to mention best of luck to those qualifying at Northside this weekend, racing just around the corner, which is great. And our next episode 21, will feature Kenny Murphy. And I guess he's a hoot, so we're looking forward to that. So again, Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate.